Okay, I left this earlier for you. Don't forget the requirements indicate that the image should be placed on the back of the poster. Remember, so the image has to go on the back. Um, so that's the one thing I wanted to mention. That I put that there early this morning. Well, actually, I guess it wasn't that early this morning, but it was a few hours back, hoping that you would get to it because class ends later on today. So what I wanted to mention here, hopefully you'll get this before tonight, but here's what I have. Okay, so I talked about this in grading for the backside of the poster, and I don't know if you remember, um, I said that this type is really small. It's very difficult to read because you don't have very much contrast. Plus the fact that the background is interfering with your type, so it's very illegible. And at that time, the timeline was not developed. So I want to talk a little bit about the timeline. The timeline itself isn't a timeline per se. It's actually a chronological list of events. And just if you just do a quick Google search and just say timeline and do an image search, you can see that a timeline is usually something that's designed in the style of an infographic. And at the very least, it would have some sort of an indication pointing to the line, and that line would be the years itself. Do you see what I'm saying? So we don't have that here. We just have, like I said, a series of chronological events. Then you have this kind of bracket drawn around them. The one thing about the bracket is that your type, some of it is right up against those bracket lines, and some of it you've got quite a lot of space there. So there's no real consistency in the way that that portion of the poster is presented. I would say that instead of going here, now you've got this, the writing is in, looks like it's in a light gray, if not an off blue, but this is definitely a lighter color. So this is much more visible. This is kind of receding in the composition more so than this. And I think that for two reasons. Number one is the color, obviously. And number two is the fact that the type and the timeline is so much larger than the type in Hemingway's life text. Okay. Let me see. As far as the back of the poster goes, I'm a little concerned about two things, and the front of the poster. Remember, the image goes on the back, so we got to get the image on the back. As far as the typography on the front go, I think the title is good, but this is really, it's leaded so far. This type is so far away from this type. If you look at it, you say you don't think they're related. And we found that out. And plus you have these other things in the background that are kind of interfering, and they're presenting things in between these two lines of type, like the gun and arms. And it's creating this phenomenon that these are not related. So typographically, as you remember from our rules, you would want to bring that closer in proximity. And that would unify those as one separate headline, or in this case. And I'm not sure why the courage is grace under pressure. Is that a Hemingway quote? If it is, I'm not real sure how. Boy, that's a tough one, because kind of it's sitting there in quotes. Usually with quotes, we'll put the person's name right there underneath it, but you already have his name, so I guess that's okay if that's a quote. But again, now, one of my major concerns is this. Now I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that these are basically placed images, your background. And the only image we're really allowed to use in this project is the image of your laureate. The reason I say these are placed images, at first I thought that this was your composition. But then I remember seeing the penguin and talking about the penguin, and that's from Penguin Books, I'm guessing. I'm guessing this is a book cover, Sarah, and I'm guessing this is part of a book cover too. So technically you can't use these in your poster because they're placed images, okay? I hope that makes sense. Remember, the only image is that of your laureate. So, okay, so that's what I have. Those would be my questions, and I hope you get to this by tonight, hopefully. If you have any questions or comments, or if I can clarify anything at all, Sarah, just let me know. I'll be glad to do so, okay? Thank you very much.